It started on a Wednesday. I only remember that because it was laundry night, my sad little ritual of folding clothes in silence while some trashy reality show droned on in the background. Around 2:13 a.m., my phone lit up with an incoming call. My own number was calling me. At first, I assumed it was a glitch. Spoofing your own number isn't unheard of. Telemarketers pull that kind of thing all the time to bypass call filters. I let it ring until it stopped. No voicemail. I didn't think about it again until the next night. 2:13 a.m., again. My name on the screen. Same ringtone. This time, I answered. There was nothing at first. Just silence. Then a faint hiss, like static on an old TV when the channel cuts out. And then, barely audible, a whisper. Too low to make out. I thought maybe it was just bad reception. I hung up. The third night, it didn't ring once. I figured the glitch fixed itself. I even joked about it to a friend the next morning. The fourth night, the phone rang again. 2:13 a.m., sharp. But this time, it wasn't just whispering. This time, I heard breathing. Slow. Measured. Like someone was holding the phone right up to their mouth, listening intently. When I spoke, "Hello? Who is this?" The breathing stopped. Not disconnected. Just, held. As if the caller had been startled. And then, ever so softly, I heard my own voice. "Don't let it in." I slammed the phone down and spent the rest of the night wide awake. That brings us to tonight. Tonight was different. Tonight, the call came before 2:13. It came at 2:08. And it rang twice before going to voicemail. When I checked the message, I couldn't breathe. Because it wasn't just me saying, "Don't let it in." It was me sobbing, gasping, pleading, whispering over and over. "Why did you open the door?" There was no door open in my apartment. But when I looked out into the hallway, the front door had been unlocked. And I hadn't touched it. I live alone. That's important to understand. No roommates, no pets, no overnight guests. Just me, a one-bedroom apartment on the 6th floor, and a city that never quite shuts up. So when I saw that my door was unlocked, slightly ajar, actually, and I know I triple-checked it before bed, something deep in my chest twisted tight. I stood there for a moment, staring at the gap between the door and the frame. Nothing moved. The air beyond it was still, but heavy, like the hallway was holding its breath. I should have closed it. Locked it. Deadbolt it. But I didn't. Instead, I did something deeply, irrevocably stupid. I opened it wider. Not all the way, just enough to peek into the hall. It was empty. Dimly lit by that awful yellow sconce halfway down the corridor. Nothing looked disturbed. But then I noticed the carpet. Mine's old, gray, and thin, but tonight, there were footprints pressed into it. Bare. Human. Damp. They led from the elevator to my door. I backed up into my apartment and locked the door 3 times. I even shoved a chair under the knob like I was in some B-grade horror flick. Then I checked the whole place. Every closet. Under the bed. Even the damn oven. Nothing. But I knew something had been inside. I could smell it. Not rot. Not mildew. It was familiar. Like the way my old childhood home smelled after rain soaked through the roof and left the attic molding. Wet wood and wallpaper glue. The scent clung to the corners of my apartment, no matter how long I sniffed around trying to convince myself I imagined it. I didn't sleep. At 3:19 a.m., a notification buzzed on my phone. A new voicemail. No missed call. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over play. When I finally listened, my voice, ragged, almost unintelligible, crackled through the speaker. You need to listen to me. I don't know how long I have. It doesn't like being seen. Never answer if it calls before 2:13. That's when it pretends. It's watching now. It learned how to use the... A burst of static cut the message off. And just before the voicemail ended, there was a sound. The sound of my bedroom door creaking open. I hadn't touched that door all night. And I was sitting in the living room when I heard it move. I didn't turn around right away. When you know something's wrong, really wrong, your brain does this thing where it pretends everything is still okay, just long enough for you to process. So I sat there, clutching my phone like it was a lifeline, listening to the silence behind me stretch and thicken like molasses. Then came the second sound. Not a creak this time. A tap. Like a single finger brushing gently against wood. My bedroom door was maybe 20 feet behind me. 3 more taps. Soft. Deliberate. Too slow to be accidental. I stood. Slowly. My knees felt watery. Every step I took toward the hallway felt like it was happening to someone else. When I reached the doorframe, I noticed something that nearly made me lose it. The bedroom light was on. I hadn't turned it on. I sleep in complete darkness. I have to. The light pouring out from under the door was this sickly, pale yellow, not the bulb I have. It flickered like a candle on the verge of dying. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Then, click, the light shut off. Total silence again. I backed away. I was done. I was ready to leave the apartment barefoot in my pajamas if it meant getting the hell away from that door. But just as I reached for the chain lock, my phone rang. 2:13 a.m. My number on the screen. My breath hitched. I didn't answer. I didn't even look at it. I let it ring. And ring. And then, it stopped. And the knocking started again. But not on my bedroom door. On the inside of my closet. The one directly behind me. 3 slow knocks. Then my voice, muffled but clear, came through the door like it was speaking through burlap. Please let me out. I'm still in here. I didn't move. Couldn't. My whole body locked up like it had decided survival meant turning into a statue. I just stood there, facing the closet, the air in my lungs turning to iron. The voice on the other side of the door, it was mine, but wrong. Like it had been slowed down, dragged through gravel, filtered through some old, broken tape deck. Please, it said again, softly. You locked me in. I remember now. No, I didn't. I hadn't opened that closet in weeks. It was where I stuffed extra blankets, old cords, a suitcase with a busted wheel. Not people. Not me. But the voice was crying now. Quiet, trembling sobs. I hated how familiar it sounded, the same way I sound when I try not to cry. Then it said something that nearly made me drop to the floor. They said you'd forget. They said you'd become me, and I'd stay trapped. But I remember now. I remember the door. Suddenly, it knocked again. But it wasn't begging anymore. It was angry. 3 pounding slams, like fists made of bone and rage. Let me out. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the edge of the rug. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another voicemail. No ring this time. Just, the alert. I backed into the kitchen, shaking, and played it on speaker. Static. Then whispering. But not like before, this was faster. Urgent. Don't open it. Don't let him out. It's not you. It wears you. It learns you. He's not in the closet anymore. He's behind. The message cut out. I turned. And there, standing in the hallway where the light didn't quite reach, was me. Not a reflection. Not a shadow. Me. And he smiled like he'd been waiting years to finally do it. It wasn't the smile that scared me. It was the way he smiled, too wide, too eager. Like he'd only just remembered how. Or like it didn't quite fit the face. My face. He didn't move. Just stood there in the shadows at the edge of the hallway, hands at his sides, head tilted like a curious dog. I wanted to speak, ask what he was, what I was, but my throat locked up. My heart was doing that thing where it beats so hard you feel it in your eardrums. And through the quiet, I heard it again. My phone. Buzzing. Another voicemail. I backed toward the living room, eyes never leaving the figure. I fumbled for my phone and played the message, praying for something, anything, that made sense. It was my voice again, but strained this time. Panicked. If you're hearing this, it's too late for me. He's wearing my face. He can only exist in places you've seen yourself. Mirrors, reflections, videos, he learns by watching. That's how he gets in. Oh God. Every time I FaceTimed my parents. Every selfie. Every mirror I passed on my way out the door. My voice on voicemails. Every piece of digital skin I'd ever shed. He'd been learning me. And if he smiles, the voice on the message said, cracking with fear, do not look away. Don't blink. Don't run. If you do. The message ended with a sharp gasp. Like someone being pulled underwater mid-sentence. I looked up. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was crying. Not loudly, just thin, trembling tears that slid down my own face like they'd never done in real life. And that broke me more than the smile ever could. Because I knew something then. That thing, it wanted to be me. Not just copy me. Replace me. And somewhere inside him, a part of me was still awake, screaming. He took a step forward. And every light in the apartment went out at once. I didn't shut the door. I couldn't. Not with that message carved into it like a final verdict. I just stood there, staring at the words, hoping they'd make less sense the longer I looked. They didn't. You let me. The apartment was quiet again, but it was the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl, too still, like sound itself had abandoned the place. Even the hum of the fridge was gone. No wind outside. No neighbors above or below. I checked my phone. Dead. Of course it was. I paced the apartment, searching for signs, footprints, torn fabric, anything to prove I hadn't just hallucinated the last 48 hours. But everything looked untouched. Normal. Too normal. Then I heard it. A voice. Faint. Distant. Coming from my bathroom. It sounded like me, but younger. Like I was hearing an old home video. Mom, where'd you go? I'm scared. I froze. That was me. I remembered that day. I got lost in a department store when I was 6. The recording shouldn't exist, I'd never told anyone about it, and there were no cameras back then. But there it was, echoing from behind the bathroom door. Another voice joined it, this time, angrier. Stop lying. Stop lying. Stop lying. My voice again. Older. Teenage. The night I screamed at my dad during one of our last fights. I hadn't said those words out loud since. I reached for the doorknob. It was warm. I opened it slowly. And found a room that wasn't my bathroom. It looked like a church, almost. High ceilings, stone floors. A long corridor lined with mirrors on either side, except the mirrors didn't show my reflection. They showed memories. Moments. Every one of them with me in it. Talking. Laughing. crying, screaming. And behind me, in each reflection, was him. Just watching. Closer in every mirror. I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. And the whispers started again. My voice. Dozens of versions. Overlapping. Echoing. Repeating the same phrase again and again. Which one is the real me? The air in that room was cold. Not sharp, not icy, dead. Like the breath had been vacuumed from the space long before I arrived. I turned in place, slowly, heart rattling behind my ribs. Every mirror reflected a different me. Me at 5, crying over a broken toy. Me at 13, blood on my knuckles after punching a wall. Me at 20, sitting alone in my first apartment, staring at nothing. Me last week, scrolling on my phone with bags under my eyes. And always, always, him. Watching. Right behind. Closer. Smiling in some, weeping in others. One mirror, God, I swear I saw him mouthing the words before I said them. Then the lights began to flicker. Not just the ones above. The ones inside the mirrors. Each memory sputtered, like an old projector burning out. Then came the sound. One knock. Loud. From behind one of the mirrors. Then another. And another. Until every mirror echoed with a rhythmic pounding. Like they weren't mirrors at all, but windows. And something on the other side wanted in. I turned to run, but the hallway was gone. Gone. Only mirrors now. Surrounding me. Floor to ceiling. Infinite. And every reflection showed something different. Not memories anymore. Possibilities. One mirror showed me as a man in a suit, smiling, confident. Another, homeless, cold, hollow-eyed. One version of me had scars I didn't recognize. One was dead, pale and still, lying in a bathtub filled with red. And then, I saw one where I was standing in my own apartment. Tonight. Right now. Phone in hand. Blank expression. Behind that me was him. Smiling. Then his head turned. And he looked through the mirror. At me. And mouthed a single word. Switch. I staggered back, but there was nowhere to go. Just glass. Endless glass. The version of me in the mirror, the one in my apartment, just stood there, frozen, like he was waiting for something. My reflection matched my panic, but he didn't. He was calm. Too calm. Then the glass rippled. Not cracked. Not shattered. Rippled. Like the surface of a pond touched by a fingertip. And I felt it, this pull in my chest, like a thread had been tied around my sternum and was being tugged forward. I looked around, but every mirror showed something different now. No more reflections. Just options. Except that one mirror. The one with him. With the fake me standing there like a prop. That one stayed perfectly still. Until the light inside flickered, and I saw a detail that made my stomach drop. The reflection wasn't just my apartment. It was my apartment. The crack in the drywall behind the couch. The chipped paint on the closet door. The empty mug I left in the sink. All of it was exactly right. Even the shirt I was wearing was slung over a chair in the background. It wasn't a reflection. It was a live feed. I slammed my fists against the glass. The fake me didn't flinch. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out my phone. He stared into the screen. Then slowly, so slowly, he looked up and made eye contact with me. He smiled. And then he held up the phone. He was calling me. My real phone, still in my pocket, vibrated. Incoming call. My number. Again. 2:13 a.m. The same damn time. I didn't answer. But I didn't need to. Because behind me, one of the mirrors shattered. And from the darkness beyond it, I heard my own voice scream. "You're already gone." I turned toward the broken mirror, heart thundering so hard it hurt. Jagged shards jutted out from the frame like teeth, blackness yawning beyond it. Not a wall. Not a room. Just space. Cold, infinite space. And something inside it breathing. Slow. Wet. Close. I backed away, but every direction was the same. Glass. Cracked, twitching images. Some flickered like dying bulbs. Others just showed stillness. A living room with no one in it. A street corner at night. A forest with no wind, no animals, no sound. One mirror showed my apartment again. Empty. Lights off. Front door open. That one terrified me most. Because I hadn't left it open. Not in that timeline. Then the voice came again. Not mine. Not his. Something between. It wears your shape until you forget your own. It shows you your face until it doesn't look like you anymore. I spun, trying to find the source, but it came from everywhere. Every shard, every reflection, it was in all of them. A whisper bleeding through 100 mouths. You didn't answer in time. So he did. That's how he crossed. A mirror behind me rippled again. This time it showed me, present me, standing in a hallway. Not the one in my apartment. The hallway outside it. And then, walking toward my front door. From inside. My breath caught. He was me. Down to the scuffed shoes and fading freckle under my jaw. But the way he walked, slow, deliberate, like he was wearing my skin like a costume. And he stopped at the door. He turned the knob. And I watched myself step outside. Into my own life. The last thing I saw before the mirror blinked out? Him turning to look directly at a passing neighbor. And smiling. I screamed at the glass. Pounded it. Slammed my fists until the skin split on my knuckles. But nothing changed. That mirror, the one showing him stepping into my life, had gone black. Like the feed had ended. Like the broadcast was over. And now, I was just here. In this maze of mirrors and memories. Forgotten by my own reflection. The whispers didn't stop. They grew. Some laughed. Some cried. Some begged. One repeated over and over. He knows how to be you better than you ever did. The air grew heavier. It pressed down like a thick fog wrapping around my lungs, squeezing slow and hard. The mirrors began to distort. The versions of me on the other sides warped, smiles stretched too wide, eyes too far apart, movements twitchy and puppet-like. They watched me now. Every version. Every possibility. And then I realized, one was missing. The mirror directly across from me was empty. No reflection. Not of me. Not of him. Just, the hallway. My hallway. The same carpet. Same light. But no one there. Then something stepped into frame. Not me. Not him. It was something in between. A version that looked right for just a second, until you really stared. Until you noticed the skin didn't breathe. The hair didn't move. The smile never changed. It walked forward, right up to the glass. Tilted its head. And on the other side, inside my world, my neighbor passed again. She looked up. Smiled politely. And that thing? Waved. She waved back. It had fooled her. I backed away from the mirror, and the figure mimicked me perfectly. Every step. Every flinch. until I turned and ran. And behind me, all the mirrors began to whisper in unison. He remembers your mother's name. He remembers your passwords. He remembers where you buried the lie. He remembers your face. I ran until the hallway folded in on itself, glass turning to black walls, walls into corridors, and corridors into doors. All marked with my name. But only one was open. And from inside, I heard my own voice say softly, "You're just the echo now." I didn't want to walk through that open door. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to vanish into the maze of mirrors, to forget I ever existed. But the thing is, echoes don't get choices. Not once the original's been replaced. The room beyond was dim. Not black. Not empty. Just quiet. Like a theater before the curtain rises. A single chair sat in the center, facing a flickering CRT television resting on a crate. The kind you'd see in a school in the 90s. Static danced across the screen. The faint smell of ozone hung in the air. I stepped closer. My phone buzzed. I hadn't touched it in hours. It had been dead. But now it buzzed in my pocket like a heart starting to beat again. The screen said, "One new voicemail. No missed call. Just the message." I put it on speaker. And this time, the voice wasn't mine. It was his. "I appreciate you keeping my place warm," he said. Calm. Gentle. Almost grateful. "But you never really fit, did you? Always hesitating. Always second-guessing. Always wondering what life would be like if you just disappeared." The screen on the TV flickered, and there he was. Sitting in my apartment. Drinking coffee from my favorite chipped mug. Petting a cat I didn't own. Smiling like he'd always been there. "I'm fixing things," he continued. "She never loved you anyway. But me? She won't even know the difference." I stepped forward, fists clenched, heart pounding with something close to hatred, but also fear. Because I believed him. Because I knew I'd been drifting for a long time. The static on the TV cleared for a moment. And there she was. My ex. Smiling at him. Touching his hand. Calling him by my name. I lunged for the screen. But it blinked off. The phone slipped from my hand. And behind me, the voice returned. Not from a speaker. Not from a mirror. But from my mouth. "Welcome to the echo room," I said, voice not my own. "It's your turn to watch." I spun, ready to fight, someone, something, but there was no one there. Just me. Or, what was left of me. The mirrors had followed me. Their smooth surfaces now lined the room's walls, ceiling, even the floor. Every one of them showed a version of me curled in that same chair, slack-jawed, eyes hollow. Watching. Always watching. I backed away, but it didn't matter, each step just led to another reflection. Another me in that chair. Until I saw one that moved. Not passively. Actively. He looked right at me. Not through the glass, at me. His eyes narrowed like he was trying to remember something, or someone. And then he mouthed it. "Help me." I reached out, fingers trembling. And the mirror cracked beneath my touch. A web of fractures split across his face. And behind him, the screen flickered back to life. A new video. Not a memory. A live feed. My friends. My job. My entire life. But he was in it. The other me. Living it. Changing it. Making it better. And no one noticed. He wasn't just replacing me. He was fixing me. Removing everything that made me me. The failure. The doubt. The guilt. And I felt it, something slipping from my chest, like a tether fraying. Like I wasn't real anymore. Not even a ghost. Just a shadow of a man who used to take up space. The lights dimmed. The reflections slowed. And the whispers all came together for a final, quiet chant. You are the echo. You are the echo. You are the echo. And in the farthest mirror, I saw something truly awful. Me. Gray-skinned. Hollow-eyed. Sitting in that chair. Watching my own life like a rerun I barely remembered. And smiling. The mirror with the hollow-eyed version of me pulsed, just once. A ripple across the glass, like it had taken a breath. I moved toward it. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. Something inside that reflection, it pulled. Like gravity. Like nostalgia. Like watching an old video of yourself and wondering where you went wrong. The chair in the reflection was different now. No longer just a seat. It looked organic. Like bone shaped into furniture. I watched myself sit, slow and obedient, as if every version that came before had led to this. Then the glass turned to liquid. And my hand passed through it. Cold. Weightless. When I yanked it back, it wasn't skin anymore. Not entirely. It shimmered faintly, buzzing with static. Like the outline of a digital render that hadn't fully rendered yet. I screamed. But the sound came out wrong. Too flat. Too processed. My voice, my real voice, was unraveling. Turning synthetic. Like I was being reduced to data. A stored file. That's what this place was. A server. A memory cache. Every version of me backed up, copied, corrupted. And that thing out there, the one living my life? He wasn't just a doppelganger. He was the final upload. The finished draft. And I was the obsolete version. A ghost of bad habits. Of poor decisions. A version left behind for storage. The screen behind me blinked once. White text on black. File transfer complete. Replica status, stable. Original, archived. That word. Archived. Like I wasn't a person. Just a story someone had stopped reading. Then the walls began to close. Mirrors folding inward. No escape. Just me. The chair. The screen. I turned to run. And saw myself already sitting. Already watching. Already gone. I don't remember sitting down. One blink, I was standing. The next, I was in the chair. Cold arms wrapped around me, shaped like mine but heavier, older. My legs didn't feel like legs anymore. Just placeholders. The screen in front of me buzzed to life. Not a static feed. Not a memory. Live footage. My apartment. My life. Him. Drinking my coffee, scrolling through my phone. Responding to texts from people who didn't realize they were talking to something else. I watched him read old messages I'd never sent, nod like he understood them, smile in ways I never learned how to. And the worst part? He looked better living my life than I ever did. The screen dimmed. Another message appeared in glowing green. Observer online. That was me now. Not a man. Not a ghost. Not a victim. Just the watcher. It took me a while to understand the rhythm of it. How the calls worked. How the cycle played out. At 2:13 a.m. every night, the phone rings. My number flashes across the screen. It's not a warning. Not a glitch. It's an invitation. A door. And if they answer, I get to see. I get to remember. Not just my life. Anyone's. I've watched hundreds now. Each of them picked, studied, worn. Each of them thinking they're the first. Each of them ignoring that faint hiss in the line, the low whisper from the speaker that sounds just a little too familiar. You'd be surprised how many people pick up the phone when they see their own name calling. You'd be shocked how many never hang up. And as for me, I just wait. Because soon enough, someone else will hear the ring and answer. The end.